want to lose. I want to win.
I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is easy sports data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. As always, I'm joined by our infamous Belly Up Sports crew. We've got John from GMF Sports. We've got Black Hawk West from 151 Sports Investing. We are going to have Paulo joining the show in a few weeks when we start up with football again. Paulo, if you remember, was on the show for almost all of the main months of the pandemic, where we had nothing to talk about except the three countries in the world that have brutal dictatorship that were continuing to make their soccer teams play in the middle of a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, and 2 or 3 racetracks, and we made it through, and we won. Now, Paulo's a really good soccer player. I just kind of picked up on how to bet soccer from him. Now, I've bet soccer before, but not like when I bet with Paulo, because he's covering more countries. I literally had 3 or 4 countries that I had to look up on the map. I had action on them, but I did not know where they were. And I took a couple geography classes in college. I have a pretty decent map of the world in my head. So let's start right now with John from GMF Sports Consultant. John, there's a lot of cities in the country where people can take staycations. You live in one that's just a little more special than most. You live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
That's right.
When you have a staycation like you did for your anniversary, really, how much does it impact your wagering?
It does a little bit, because you, especially if you're with, family and friends and doing a special occasion like an anniversary, you don't want to be really wagering and stuck to the game. And, it kind of takes away from, kind of relaxing. And that's part of the thing is, even though I'm still in Las Vegas, I like sometimes just to kind of clear my head and not be so focused on the gambling and the game. And, it's good to kind of clear your head. So, yeah, it goes way down. I'll put some action in. I'll put some bets in. But I'm not really too focused on any of the games or anything like that when I have special events going on.
Yeah, you can't be watching the screen, and live action is obviously out. I talked about that today with Paulo in live action. The way soccer works, and we're going to start betting a lot more soccer with our shows. And the reason is because I was told by Chris Martinez early in my career that the reason soccer is the easiest sport to bet is there are 6 million soccer teams, and you only need to find 5 of them. Now, you got to know the leagues, you got to know the country and all that. But once you get it down, the other aspect is you've got to be unafraid of the odds. And so one of the things that we've started doing is you look at those odds, and you can sprinkle the odds at minus 370, but no different than when you and Black Hawk West would say, I'm waiting for this hockey team to go down a goal, and then I'm joining the party. It's the same thing with soccer. From the 60th minute of soccer, you got to be ready. You got to be ready. Now, the one thing about soccer, unlike hockey, very similar, right? Sports in terms of they've got goalies and they go up and down the field, is that you could score a shorthanded goal or a quick goal pretty fast. Soccer, not so much, unless somebody makes a blatant turnover, But so we're really excited about that. But that live action, it really does. It could ruin a romantic evening.
Yeah. You don't want to be losing bets early and have it kind of ruin that special occasion. So, yeah, like I said, I'll put in a couple, just put them in before the game and really not, take a peek here and there. But I'm not too worried about it,
All right, so let's look at one of the reasons that we're doing the show tonight is because we're not going to do a show next Thursday or the Thursday after that or the Thursday after that. Now, the Thursday after those 3 Thursdays is the Hall of Fame game. And for us, that is officially going to be the start of our football season. And it's in conjunction with the beginning of the CFL. And if we get a visit tonight from Blackhawk West, we will definitely be talking to some Canadian Football League. But the main reason is because the other sports are dying off. So hockey's done. The NBA is in game 2 tonight, but it doesn't start till 6. There's technically one game on the board right now. Live action on, so we're not going to lose any sleep over it. But I want to talk to you, John, and thank you for being involved with what has been one of the most profitable runs in the history of our show. And we've had this show a long, long time, and we've had a lot of winners. We've cashed a lot of tickets, but this summer was special. We were just doing some seriously crazy stuff. It really was. And you had a lot to do with it, so just wanted to thank you very much for your involvement.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. That's what it's all about, cashing tickets and, keep profiting, keep that bankroll growing.
What about your final NHL thoughts?
I was kind of expecting, Tampa Bay to win. I after watching, obviously, Montreal do so well against Vegas, I thought Montreal would play a little bit better than they did. They had moments where they looked good, but I was just really impressed with just Tampa Bay. They obviously are the clear-cut one of the best teams. They're back-to-back now. And it looks like maybe next year they'll probably be one of the odds, on top favorites to win it again next year. So we'll see what my Knights can do. I think they need to make some changes in Vegas, but yeah, I was impressed with Tampa Bay, to say the least. They look pretty much dominant.
One thing about the Lightning is they can beat you 1-0, and we saw it. They can beat you 6-4.
Yeah, there was games during the season. And also in the beginning of the playoffs, where even if they were down 2 or 3 goals, Tampa Bay can score 4 or 5 goals in a period, no question if they needed to. And we've seen that a couple of times, when they were playing some teams. So, yeah, it's unbelievable. Just all around, congrats to them. Great team. They deserve it. They, pretty much ran the table almost the whole season. So, yeah,
look at Tampa Bay, back-to-back of the 4 sports that are basically the top 4 in America.
I know what's going on. Those people in Tampa Bay must be excited. You got Brady, you got Lightning bringing some championship hardware now again. So wow, congrats to Tampa Bay people. They got a lot to celebrate.
And I did not mention that from the start because again, we normally hop on live action right away because as you know, if you bet live action, if you BS for a couple minutes, you turn around. Not only isn't your bet available, but you could have already won, especially with the hockey bets. When you're doing, soccer's the same thing. You're doing a half a goal or a half a puck. There's not too many half runs. I guess you could bet some innings, But really, with live action, you've got to pay attention. So we hop right on it normally. But do remember, right now, championshipfootballs.com, which sponsors Sports Betting Weekly, is having their largest sale in their history. Normally in August, when the Dallas Cowboys are in the Hall of Fame game, when we come back that Thursday, it's going to be Pittsburgh and Dallas in the Hall of Fame game. Normally, the footballs at Championship Footballs are $84.95. Now, these aren't any regular footballs. These are NFL licensed, full-size Dallas Cowboy, Super Bowl 30, 5-time Super Bowl champion souvenir footballs. Now, once August comes, sure, you can get them cheaper than $84.95 because if you buy 2, they're $74.95. And if you buy 4, they're $69.95. Well, why would people buy 4? You say, you would be surprised because they are the coolest present they'll open that day guaranteed. How many of our orders are for multiple balls? One for me, one for my brother, one for my 2 grandkids, whatever the case may be. Well, you can get them cheaper than that. Say you own a collectible store. You do in your neighborhood in Pittsburgh, you sell the baseball cards and things like that in your store. Well, you know what? You could sell the footballs and you can get them wholesale. You can get them down to $54.95. You can get them as low as $49.95 if you're buying. If you're part of Belly Up Sports Crew or you're part of the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. But in July, and only in July, until July 31st at midnight, they are $39.95. It is literally more than half off. It's the largest sale in the history of championshipfootballs.com, and it is really the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. So let's do this. Let's go out and get a traffic update. We're going to get a Kansas City traffic update. Let's see. What are you on the interstate? Do you have to take the interstate to work?
No, I'm driving through the backwoods because I'm trying to avoid the park just closed traffic. So I'm still in the parking lot of the amusement park. I'm not on any interstate.
All right, there you go. So we were talking with John about a few things, and one of the things that we talked about with football was the fact that we really have only dabbled in Canadian football up to this point, and most of that dabbling had to be with Blackhawk West bringing it up on the show when he would call in or we would have him on. But going forward this year, it's going to become part of our regular routine. We're going to have college football to talk about. We're going to have NCAA college football, Canadian football to talk about, college football to talk about, and, of course, NFL football. And that all starts for us 3 weeks from today on August 5th, the Hall of Fame game with, as aforementioned, the Dallas Cowboys, 5-time Super Bowl champions, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to pick up on that when we get back from break. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly, part of the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At championshipfootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Gramps is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, two things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and championshipfootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. Championshipfootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, championshipfootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the championshipfootballs.com autographed footballs. Championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. You really do need to sit down and enjoy the show, but we were talking about it before Wes joined us from the parking lot at the, what's the name of the I forgot.
I'm at Worlds of Fun.
Worlds of Fun. That's right. And they're the ones with the big dinosaur.
We have a giant balloon.
Well, the dinosaurs that they dress up like a Kansas City Chief in Chief colors.
So the giant T-Rex, that's here in Kansas City, and that's in front of Union Station. Union Station is a very historic building, and there's always some exhibit or thing going on. But the T-Rex was in front of Union Station.
Okay, there we go. All right. So one of the things that we talked about was that with football, we don't do the live action like we've done this summer. We did nothing but live action on this show for week after week after week. And I've already mentioned this to John, so I'm going to shoot it out to Blackhawk West from 151 Sports Investing, that we just wanted to say thank you, because we've been doing this show for a long, long time now. We're talking 7, 8, 9 years. I don't even remember how long. I'm old, but it's been a while. And it was one of the best runs we've ever had, without a doubt. I mean, not only were we giving people winners, we were giving them winners in minutes, literally in minutes. I mean, I think Wes had a 7-minute cash, and we also gave them a lot of winners in the same game. So, if you're handicapping, it's tough to handicap 10 games, but if you could make 10 tickets cash in one game, well, guess what? We did it. And it was really, really a great summer. It was mind-blowing for me, honestly. No doubt about it. All right, so what we're going to talk about now is we'll get Wes caught up. I'm going to give Wes a few seconds here, your final NHL thoughts, because we had a pretty good run with NHL. The last few weeks I've been busy doing championship football, so I didn't really hop on as many of those activities as I could have. But what were your final NHL thoughts? Because unlike John, who had John had a horse in the race with the Vegas Knights.
Yeah, I think that given the way the playoff was structured, the team that should have won. Tampa was very low odds going into it on a future when it started. From a fan's perspective, I think that the playoff structure cost us some teams that would have been more competitive. Montreal deserves respect. They made it to the Cup, and they caught Vegas at a time when Vegas was having a scoring drought. But I think that there's two teams out of the Canadian division that had the playoff structure different. We would have seen them in the round of 4. I think Edmonton had a shot, and I think that the playoffs would have looked a little bit better. But Tampa deserved to win the Cup. Best team left in it. I saw a great story with the Islanders. God, they were really a lot of fun to watch. Colorado did Colorado things. Come playoff time, statistically, the President's Trophy does not win the Stanley Cup. So as a Blackhawk.
All right, so I'm not sure about John, but I lost you there, but I got the gist of it, no doubt about it. All right, so let's talk about football. All right, what I'm looking at with football might be different what other people look at, but for right now, because I'm not a personnel guy, I'm really not doing anything except checking out college football to see who those early games are. When John from GMF Sports Consultants, when will you start looking at football a little more intensely? I mean, the preseason for the NFL, the regular season for the NFL, first week of college, right away with college or some of those early games. When do you really dig into football?
As far as the preseason goes, from a betting standpoint, I don't bet preseason for NFL, and I wouldn't recommend that anybody do that personally, just my personal experience. But I'll start looking into the NFL once preseason hits. I'll watch some of the games. I'm not going to watch all of it, but I'll keep an eye out. That way you kind of know who the backup players are, and obviously you got to keep an eye on maybe possible injuries, even though I'm sure most of the starters really won't play that much, if any, to be quite honest with you this year. College football, I'll start getting into it right as we hit August. Just going over teams, seeing who they signed, stuff like that. And college football, I don't want to say easier, but you always kind of can tell those top tier teams. And then there's also some of those other sleeper teams that maybe not so many people are following, from that aspect. But yeah, once we hit into August, end of August, I'll be looking into all that, mainly NFL.
No, there's no doubt with college football, it's much different. That whole, on any given Sunday, an NFL team can't beat another NFL team. That really is a true statement. And we've seen it a few times with double-digit dog upsets in the NFL. But on Saturdays, it used to be on Saturdays. Now it could be Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or Saturday. About Monday. Monday's the only safe day for college football to not be on usually.
I think there was at some point, there was almost a college football game on almost every night of the week,
there,
I think. There
was a 42-day run last year.
Yeah, it was glorious from a football standpoint. Yeah,
it was. But yeah, with the NFL, it's a totally different animal because the NFL point spreads matter, where sometimes the point spreads in college don't matter. And you've seen recently with some of those point spreads we've had in college that were 45s and 50s and 52s. Think about that. You could score 7 touchdowns and pitch a shutout and not cover the spread in college football. So that's crazy. Let's talk to Blackhawk West about football, because unlike John, you're going to start earlier because Canadian football will start before both college football and pro football this year. Blackhawk.
Yeah. And NFL, there is really no preseason. CFL is difficult to play live, so you're kind of going old school football with it, where you're picking your team and you're going to go, because CFL won't have a lot of live action available to start the season. As popularity picks up, it will, but typically there's not a lot of live, so you got to be delivered up front. What I'm looking at, what I'm researching right now with the CFL is how teams handle the pandemic, and I'm trying to find as much information as I can about any virtual practice or film study or anything like that was going on. I'm looking at like Winnipeg. They won the Grey Cup, but the quarterback, the dual threat quarterback, he's now like third string in playing for the Arizona Cardinals. So there's some big personnel changes, but at the same time, I'm pretty heavy into looking at CFL right now. So that'll start week 1. I'm already at a couple dog plays that I like for week 1, but I think the numbers are going to move a little bit. College football, I hit it hard week 1. The NFL week 1 is pretty much all betting, or I'm looking for egregious point spreads. I'm looking for anything that's above 6.5 and looking to take points in the NFL. But on my members page, we go over this every year to start the season. We're on a progressive system, so whatever your unit is, you start there, and we typically will between 10 and 13 games the first week, and that's college and NFL combined. And really 13 games, we're looking to go 8-5, and I advise that you progressively press those wagers for the following week. You pay yourself a certain percentage of the profit, and then you press by a certain percent, so that your unit, by the time you get to week, is gone up probably 3 or 4 times. You've already cashed everything out 5 times over, and that's kind of how we hit football. But I'm full on CFL week 1. There's plays that I like, probably dog outright winners.
Yeah, and I would imagine that the live action aspect will be very similar to what we saw with the spring FCS football, right? Where in the beginning, It was tough to even find some lines, and by the end, they were opening it up a little bit.
Yeah, and they will, and I'm to just my book page, they typically will cut off the halftime, the second half action, pretty quickly once they reach a certain. I'm guessing it's because they've reached a certain dollar amount worth of action. Mm-hmm. But you have to be deliberate about what you take up front. I buy the half point quite a bit in Canadian football because the kickoff can score a point. And a lot of people don't read that, but you can score a point on the kickoff. And in a lot of cases, that hook matters more so. So an 8-point spread is similar to what 7 is in the NFL.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whereas in the NFL, really, the one thing about the NFL is an 8.5-point spread is a pretty nice place to be. You got an 8.5-point lead, and you're in the latter half of the game. It's a great place to be. It really is. All right, so when we're looking at college football on my end, the first thing we look at is to see when we could do our 2 games in one day. We have the ability here in Southern California to go from the Los Angeles Coliseum across to Pasadena to the Rose Bowl and catch 2 games on the same day. Now, we've done it pretty much every single year except the one year I went to visit Elvis. Now, I realized Elvis had already passed, but Vicky is a big Elvis fan, so we went to Memphis. Our anniversary is the 12th of September. So I missed those 2 games, but this year it looks like it's going to be a tough one. We may have to do it later in the year. Always in the beginning, as you know, guys, when you get those out of conference games, you can get some great matchups. So we've got LSU is at the Rose Bowl. That's Labor Day weekend, Saturday Labor Day weekend. However, USC is hosting San Jose State at the Coliseum at 2:00. And then the LSU Rose Bowl game is at 5:30. So that's a tight squeeze. You're basically saying you're not going to watch 2 games. You're going to watch 1.5 games because you can't really watch a full football game, get out of the Coliseum that holds, even if you're parking on somebody's lawn, there's still 100,000 people there. You're not going to get out of there that quick. And then you got to I think it's like 35 minutes to get over to Pasadena. But if you've ever been to Pasadena or the Rose Bowl, it's kind of a funnel. It's like a funnel. You get into Pasadena, there's only one way in and one way out kind of deal. So I'm not sure if we're doing that. But let me tell you, when your football season starts, seeing 2 college games in one day, the rest of the season is just downhill from that because it's nothing but fond memories and you have a lot of fun. And, of course, what's better than making live plays, in the Southern California sunshine because, Labor Day weekend in Southern California could be 100 degrees. And you're in the sun, you're making live plays on a game that you're watching. It's really it's why we love football. Right.
That's it. There's nothing better when you're actually physically watching the game live and you have action going on it because then you're really in tune with the game. And I'm also excited because Vegas, we're opening up finally the new Allegiant Stadium, and we're going to have some college football action during the year too. Obviously, we have UNLV, but there's some talk to some other matchups and stuff coming along here. So I'm excited to see the outcome of that, because that's going to be 60,000.
From a marketing standpoint, if you got a stadium that everybody wants to be in, then they'll go watch Hawaii and UNLV,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. It gives people an excuse to come to Vegas too. Oh, I got to go to Vegas. My team is playing there. Yes.
and that was one of the things. And it's so funny because I think John was the first one to text us about the All-Star game, right?
Yes. Yeah, we got the All-Star game coming for hockey.
Right. And 3 years ago, Vegas was like, the evil stepson. They wanted nothing to do with it. Now they're jumping on board.
Yep. Well, they were saying that, hockey will never survive in Vegas. It'll never work. And boy, let me tell you, if you haven't seen any of the games or been to any of Las Vegas Knights game, you very well know that Vegas is alive with the NHL.
Yeah.
And
the almighty dollar.
Exactly. We got a lot of corporate sponsors pushing that on too. So
and if you got the money, because I know Johnny D's out there, and he told me the tickets that the first week those tickets are like $4,000 now to get into that. Get into the Raiders game.
Oh, the Raiders game? They're outrageous for that first game. They're already one of the top rated, top pricing for the NFL, I believe. So everybody who
it's a relative season tickets. 4K is a relative number to some people,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's surprising. I'm glad I got a couple of friends who have some season tickets. So I'll definitely be a little bit more kind to them during the regular season.
Nice to know the right people. And
exactly. That's right. That's what it's about.
All right. So let's do this. Let's talk a little more about the game that starts right as we leave the air. It is now remember, you don't have to just turn off the Worldwide Sports Radio Network when we're done. Sure, we've made you a ton of money this last, 12, 14 weeks of bouncing onto your phone or wherever you're watching us when it's like right now it's 8:29 in New York City. So it's 8:29 on Thursday. We've made you some money all year. But right after us, the Loudmouths come on. And they're on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I checked in with them last night. And I'm just telling you, these guys are funny. And they have their opinions. And there's three of them. There's usually Josh, Speedy, and Errol, and they don't always agree with each other, which, of course, makes for great radio because they just go at it, and they really are. They're loudmouths to where, you know what, my wife would always call me a loudmouth. I really didn't feel that I was, but after fitting in with those guys, you know what, if the shoe fits, you got to wear it, you know. But let's talk about this game tonight. So it's game 2. There's been some injuries through the NBA. The NBA was kind of a little different, just kind of like NHL, I think, in that some of the teams we expected there weren't there. But in the end, these are really the two best teams. So let's start with Blackhawk West. It's 221, -5. I know the other night you had the Suns. You tried, though, to win with both teams at one point, I think. Did you not?
Yeah, I thought that Milwaukee would come out tougher early. I thought so. I wanted the points on Milwaukee in the first quarter, and I was looking for it to be close, or perhaps Milwaukee to even have a lead. And then the Suns, just over to the Suns money line in the first half, and then laying a shorter amount of points for the whole game. But I think that this past game, I know that Milwaukee is ever going to lead this game. I really think that the Suns were figuring things, and the Suns were not shooting as well as they're capable of shooting. So I think Giannis played, but he didn't look good, and his team around him, they weren't really thinking threes. And so I find it hard to see this game any other way than Phoenix covering and probably covering the first half and covering the first quarter. So I just don't going any other way, looking at the way that they've been playing. And you know, really, CP3 didn't even have his best game of the playoffs, which is scary that the Suns were able to win. They did a couple nights ago. So I'm completely off of that Milwaukee early thought.
Well, we talked about it, John and I, when we were doing before the show. We were looking at some of the points that were scored and the box score, and he had a good game. Paul had a good game, but they missed a lot of threes. What was it, Booker? We looked at it was like 1 for 10 or something.
Yeah, 1 for 10, whatever his number was. He wasn't very good from outside. They didn't really shoot the ball necessarily good from the 3-point line, but it was just the thing that they're able to create so many mismatch with Chris Paul, with Booker, with Ayton, and especially when you have Giannis being limited as he was. He's coming off the injury, and they were going to reduce his minutes, and obviously you want to kind of ease him back because there might be some rust issues. But Milwaukee, that there's a lot of matchups because Phoenix is just very talented all around. As we were looking at the numbers before, they had 5 or 6 guys that were scoring double digits. And like you said, Chris Paul maybe offensively didn't have his best game, but there's so many mismatch, in favor of Phoenix that I'm in the same thing with Wes. I think they're going to cover tonight. I have Phoenix winning the series. I'll give Milwaukee 1 game, but I think it's going to be, a 4-1 series win for Phoenix. They've looked pretty good, dominating almost, wire to wire. And I see no reason why they can't beat Milwaukee tonight. It's going to take a superstar caliber effort from Giannis. He's going to have to score 30 plus. You're going to need Middleton to score 30 plus. You're going to need Holiday to have, a solid game. Whereas that there's just so many options for Phoenix that even if Booker isn't on, CP3 is going to pick up the slack. Ayton's going to pick up the slack. They have guys on the bench. There's just so many more opportunities, I think, for Phoenix.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things I forgot to mention is, and Speedy gives me grief about this. You got to change your banner. So I can go and I can click here and I can change the banners that are running on the bottom of the screen. But this one here has been running since I started the show 30 minutes ago. So we're going to look at it. But it really is part of what's so valuable about this show is even when we're not doing live action and we're winning and cashing tickets for you right now, right in front of you, right there, right then, we're giving you winners all weekend. And so it says follow us on Twitter at SB Weekly, on Instagram at Sports Betting Lessons, and Facebook at Sports Betting Weekly. And then I've got another banner where it talks about the guys. And this one is, check out John on Instagram at GMF_sports_consultants. Follow Wes on Twitter at 151_sports. Play like hashtag the public. Now, the public is basically the group that we started when we started the show years ago. And you just go to bit.ly/cash tickets here, and you can get involved with the show. But we're not going to be here for 3 weeks. No, I don't know about these other guys. If we use just 21, we're going to say 3 weeks, that's 21 days. That's decent math. I'm going to be dealing with my wife's birthday. I'm going to be dealing with a trip. I got to go to a family reunion, and I'm still probably going to have action 15 of those days. So in the 21 days between we talk again, Wes, how many of those days are you going to have action?
It's going to be a quiet next 21 days for me. I'll have action on the NBA, but as far as baseball, if I'm bored, I'll probably jump on a GMF John play. But it's going to be a quiet 3 weeks for me as far as action. You work more
hours in a week in these next 3 weeks than most people work in a month when they're in a row.
I hit the ponies. I'll hit some race cards. But as far as full-on investing, we've been doing hockey and live action and the NBA and just everything we've been doing for the last few months. This will be a mellow 3 weeks. Take it in and map out the strategy for football season because we all talk about it. It's not about winning a couple bets. It's not about even picking them. It's about the strategy that you approach, how to get in and get out of the moves and.
Yep.
Mapping out what the approach to the season looks like. And like last year, I had this philosophy that early in the season, LSU was be a team that you can bet against because they're going to be laying too many points coming off the Natty. And, there's a couple teams that I'm looking at this year that are coming off a bad season that I think are going to be laying very small amount of points going into the season, and we might find some value early before odds makers adjust. So I'm going to be looking at stuff like that, just kind of keeping out the ride. So that when we hit football, it's just go.
What about you, John? 21 days from now and the Hall of Fame game. I know you like baseball, and baseball, of course, baseball takes some time off too, right? It's only 2 days of the year where none of the major – now, I'm not talking about COVID or pandemic. I'm talking about traditionally in the past, the only 2 days of the year where there was no sports to bet, no NFL, no NHL, no NBA, no MLB, was the day before the All-Star game and the day after.
And the day after, yeah. We got the All-Star break.
We got the All-Star activities too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have the home run derby and stuff like that. That's always fun. Put a couple bucks on the home run to win prop bet or everything like that. But yeah, it's the same thing. I'll be doing some NBA action. Like obviously, I have action on a game tonight, and I'll move accordingly. Depending on how the rest of the series rolls out. For right now, MLB, because obviously we have the All-Star game. We have also these trade deadlines. And these teams that are out of position, they might be in a sell-off mode. So this is a time where you kind of got to keep an eye on which team are moving players. So I'll be lowering my MLB bets down a little bit here until we actually probably pick up after all this kind of chaos and trade deadline and everything. I also have a birthday at the end of July. My wife's birthday is the first week in August. So yeah, I'll probably say probably around 12 to 14 of those days. And, I'll take a couple of days off for the All-Star break, which is nice to get a little break. Like I said, clear your head from it all is always good.
No doubt. All right. So when we get back from break, we're going to talk a little bit more about this upcoming weekend and what the guys' plays are, which you can find on our website at sportsbettingweekly.com. And we are going to also talk a little tease with some of our easy sports data. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly, part of the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network and on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. You are joining us. It is 8:43 Eastern time on Thursday. So in other words, if you're in New York, it's about 8:45. You're in the right spot because we're going to give you some winners for this weekend. Plus, you could always hear us later on sportsbettingweeklylive.com. And I put some social media posts out there, but that's the best part. You had mentioned something about the best part of cashing earlier, Wes. And I kind of picked up on it because for me, it's always been that part about being right, because it really is. It's not a monetary thing. It's just a pride thing that you put in the effort and you're good at it. And if you're not going to be good at something, why would you do it? I mean, I quit golf a long time ago because I got hurt. I couldn't really play golf anymore, and I tried. And so now, I'm putting ice on my shoulder. I stopped counting how many strokes I have on most holes. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? This isn't fun. And it really is. It's the part of being right. And when you go to the website, so it says you could bet the same action as the guys. It says your intro special is the weekend for $15. Check out the cash tickets page on sportsbettingweekly.com. And you get plays for both Saturday and Sunday. And another thing that I'm excited about is that when we get back from break, Paulo's going to be joining us. Maybe not on this show. We might have his own show with him because he does so much soccer action. But anytime you have guys that are consistently, and I'm telling you right now, you don't find a lot of guys like Blackhawk West, John from GMF Sports Consultants, and Paulo that are as good handicappers in one place at the same time as you do on Sports Betting Weekly. That is worth your price of admission. Even if we charge something, and we don't charge, it's absolutely free. But the point is, we're here to cash tickets. So this weekend, one of the things that I noticed with baseball, and John had mentioned it when we first started the show, is with all the rainouts, you get a lot of double headers. Well, those 7-inning games have made a big difference, John, this year, have they not? There you are. I lost you.
Yes, yeah. My phone got disconnected. I'm back. Oh yeah, those 7-inning games. It's from a handicapping standpoint. You got to really pay attention. When they have doubleheaders, who's the pitching matchups, and moving forward as we see that, it's very key to keep an eye, on these listed pitchers from day to day. And like I said, there might be, teams who are selling and teams who are buying right now to kind of get you over that hump there after the All-Star break. So,
but think about would you ever get a notice that the Raiders game is postponed because of lightning and tomorrow they'll only play 3 quarters, or the hockey game is only going to play 2 periods. So from a managerial standpoint, it's a totally different way of looking at your guy. Nowadays, as you know, 5 innings is a big deal. A starting pitcher gets through 5 innings, it's a big deal. But if you've got one of your aces on the mound and you know that a team, and you look and say the last 3 or 4 games, they've given up a lot of runs, and then you go to the box score, they show you every pitcher, and they might show you guys that pitched 0.1 inning or 0.0 innings because he came in for 3 guys. He gave up a walk, a hit by pitch, and a single. And I always love when that happens because I got to think that if I was a pitcher that they just pulled out, I would be shaking my head and say, Skip, I could have hit the guy in the ribs. You didn't need to bring in another guy. And so it really does. You have to be careful. You have to change how you do it. But the other aspect of it is when it comes to team totals. And the team totals do get adjusted. But a lot of times with some of these teams, they score once they get through the teams that are score runs at any point in time in a season. And sure, you've got the Houstons and you got the Torontos and you got the Dodgers who will do it at any point in time throughout the season. But you have other teams that do it in clusters as well. And when a team is scoring in clusters, they're usually scoring right after they get through. But sometimes they're hopping on the starting pitcher right away. Other times they may have to go through the order once or twice. But when you've got a guy that's throwing the ball well, he could do 7 innings standing on his head. And that really changes how you bet the game, I think. John, what do you think?
Oh, most definitely. Obviously, the classic case in point, I would have to point to DeGrom for the Mets, because this is a guy who probably, I would say, in the most recent time, is probably one of the best pitchers in the league. This guy has been dominating, lineups, pretty much all this year, last year, the year before that. His ERA, his strikeout speaks for itself. The only issue about the Mets now is that they don't really give him much run support. Then obviously in the AL, we got, Jarrett Cole for the Yankees and a couple other pitchers and stuff like that. What I really find it interesting too, and I put it on the group chat, was the amount of runs that are now being scored ever since they started taking a look at that sticky tack situation. If you go back to when they did this, a couple of weeks ago, I mean, there are teams putting up an obscene amount of runs. We have the Washington Nationals, who were playing the Padres. They put up 15 runs against them.
We've seen double digit.
Yeah.
They have been football scores.
Yeah,
good
football scores.
Football scores. Yep.
And to go back to those point where teams score runs in clusters, the Angels have been like that too. Now the Angels have some injuries, but I mean, you could look at what Ohtani is doing, and I mean, he's up there as MVP candidate as well. So yeah, it's crazy, these runs, these totals. It's really hard to key in because there's very few dominant pitchers. I think probably only a handful that I would really trust, to go longer than 5 or 6 innings. And it's just crazy to see some of these runs that are being scored in MLB. Pay attention to the totals out there, guys, because this is an opportunity where you're kind of playing even money or minus 110. So there's some advantages there.
No doubt about it. All right, so the game, we talked a little bit about the NBA game, and what I'm doing, I kind of agree with both of what you guys said, but I'm betting the game a little differently. I'm not going to bet the person to win, mostly because I don't care. I really don't care who wins most games. I don't have a favorite team. The favorite team is whoever team is spelled out on my ticket that I have in my hand. And sometimes, because I'm betting the over a lot, it's both teams are on there. But I like the over tonight. I like the over. I think that those teams are going to settle in. I think Milwaukee's going to play a little bit better. I think they're going to score a few more points. And you know what? 5 points is not much, but if you go through the season and see how many times Milwaukee was getting 5 points, it's not going to be a number that's even a relative sample. So what I'm looking at is I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over first quarter, over first half, over for the game. I'm not going to touch the second half if I cash. I'm probably going to double down at the second half. I really think there are going to be points scored, but I am going to take Phoenix's team total over because I think if they scored that many points last night or last game and they struggled shooting and they're at home, I got to think the shooting's going to get better. The one thing about Milwaukee is when your best player has a hyperextended knee, Wes, we talked about it. You got hurt recently at work. John, you could do your handicapping with a bad knee. You know, I sit at a desk all day. I could have ice. I could get up, go to the break room, get ice, put it on my knee. Playing NBA Finals basketball with a knee that was bent like 42 degrees more than it should have been, it's not an easy thing to come back to. So I'm hoping that first game back allowed them to see, because remember, they give them a couple games. There's no back-to-back in playoffs. That's what's nice about it, you know? All right, so before we go, Wes, this weekend, besides working and dealing with things, anything that you know that you're definitely going to be doing? I know that you love your ponies, and Del Mar's opening up soon, I think next week.
Yeah, well, and that's what's got my attention this weekend. On Saturday, we got some big races on this Belmont card. We got the Belmont Derby, we got the Belmont Oaks. Those are both G1 races. And then the Victory Ride, that's a G3. So it's we talked back in February.
Right? This is it. They go to Saratoga after this weekend.
Yes. And these G1, G3 races, like back in February, March, we're looking at who's going to win the Derby. Well, come November, that first weekend in November, we're looking at Breeders' Cup that goes on for 2 days. So
actually, July 19th is on my things to do list, because the Breeders' Cup tickets go on sale, and I live 13 minutes from Del Mar. So we went when it was at Santa Anita, and it was really a good day. It was a good day. It's a little farther drive to Santa Anita, but it was a good day. All right, so if you want to follow some of his plays for the ponies, just go to Sports Betting Weekly and click on his link. What about you, John?
I'll be following the NBA playoffs. We'll have a game this week. Saturday, I think they pick back up again in game 3.
Sunday.
Yeah, and then we'll MLB. There's a little break, I think, on Sunday. I don't think there's any games on Sunday because they're getting ready for the All-Star game. But then we also have UFC on Saturday. We got Conor McGregor. There's going to be a big weekend here in Vegas. There's going to be a lot of superstars in town. Got the rematch. This is part 3, Conor McGregor, Poirier again. So it'll be interesting to see. I'll probably keep an eye on that. I'm not too much of a UFC bettor, but I'll definitely be tuning into that.
You were kind enough to send us some live video from the MGM, and I have been in a sports book for a fight, both in Vegas and in Mexico. And let me tell you right now, it's pretty insane, man.
There's nothing like it. Yeah.
When a fight is on is pretty wild. Now, one of the beauties about this weekend is some really big soccer matches. And I figure it don't matter whether you're getting my plays or I'm channeling Paulo's plays, because if you're cashing tickets, that's all that it matters. So if you are looking at cashing some tickets this weekend on your own, God bless you. If you need help, check out sportsbettingweekly.com. Go to the Cash Tickets Here page. Follow me. I'll give you some of my plays, some of Paulo's plays. I'm still dealing with the Easy Sports data. The Easy Sports data, the pandemic was the best thing that ever happened to the Easy Sports data, because it really just kind of solidified how very valuable it is to have everything, every line, every result, every point spread, everything you need all in one place. It really has made it a great summer. And remember, when we're done here, we're not done, because if you're on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network and it's like 5 of 9 in New York City, I think they're in Long Island, you're going to get the Loudmouths right after us. And trust me, the Loudmouths will make you laugh, and you can actually interact with them. We don't really have people calling our show, and we don't really have enough time in an hour to do all the live plays we want to do anyway. But you can check in with the Loudmouths. You could type in, you can call in. They're a lot of fun. Other than that, we will see you back at the same exact time as kickoff for the Hall of Fame game. It's Sports Betting Weekly. You can follow us on sportsbettingweeklylive.com, on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, and as always, on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm Second Half Chaz. Thanks again, John, for GMF Sports Consultants.
Thank you, guys.
Sports Marketing. And do me a favor, always be cashing.